What is going on in Toronto, Mark Schindler? What is going on in Toronto? They
Yeah,
were rumored to break up this team for weeks and months. They didn't break up any of the team. And in fact, they bought at the deadline. They acquired Jakob Poeltl for Kem Birch in a first-round pick. What is going on in Toronto? You tell me, Mark.
I mean, based on everything that came out today, it seems like they did not feel they were going to get back the value that they wanted in a trade for OG or for any of their players, frankly. And it feels like they're just kind of putting this off till summer, while also opening up the chance of, okay, if we bring in somebody who is pretty good right now, pretty valuable right now, does that change up what what the remainder of our season looks like, and then better position us for the summer? On one hand, I get it. On the other hand, I'm just kind of tired. Like before even just talking about the actual deal, because I did like the deal for them value wise, but like we're hearing these reports for reasons. It's not just agents trying to drum shit up. Like there's very real credence to everything that's being reported out of Toronto. So on one hand, I'm like, just like, okay, I would really prefer to just like see this get done with, because I'm tired of hearing about it all the time. From an actual on-court perspective, like I think I'm just so fascinated to see how this plays out, because part of what has made them successful offensively of late has been moving Scotty to be their primary screener and do a ton for them off the short roll, and put the ball in his hands by not always having him start with the ball. And I think that's been really beneficial for him. I like what Jakob can bring to their offense as just an overall hub that they haven't had, which except with what Scotty's been doing. And just
explain what makes Jakob so good.
Jakob's one of the probably 5 best screeners in the NBA. Yeah. He's a really good DHO partner. He's really good at just opening things up in general. He's so good at positioning himself in the paint and moving with a ball handler to keep himself open, to give an outlet, which is an underrated thing that frankly, the Raptors just don't really have. Like they don't have guys who are tall that tall, I should say, guys who are like, who are 7 feet tall, that have touch, that can make people worry if you leave them open out to 7 or 8 feet. Like it seems like a small thing, but it actually matters quite a bit. And then defensively, I think like his defense has been up and down in San Antonio this year, but part of that's who he's been playing with, to be fair. And he's looked better since he took a little bit of time off from the ankle injury, if I remember correctly. And he's been a lot better defensively since then. So I think you automatically add somebody who is like a real rim protector. Like obviously Precious Achiuwa is a real rim protector, but granted, there's a difference between being 6'9" and a rim protector and being 7 feet tall and a rim protector. So I think you add a defensive base that in some ways is going to allow them to continue to play as aggressively as they have. And the defense has been the problem. I think a lot of people in my mentions and just in general, they were like, oh, well, how's the offense going to look? I'm like, I do have questions about the offense. I think, yes, like I'm interested to see how he and Scotty are able to coexist, but also you're just adding a rotation level player to a team that lacks players that can play 20 minutes per game, outside of like the 7th man. Like there's been very clear trust issues from Nick Nurse to get the most out of his bench. And sometimes I wish that he would do more, but also I get it to a degree. So I'm not too worried about that. The defense is, again, like I think I'm really interested to see what that's going to look like, because I think he provides a real base there that they have frankly lacked since they decided to go into this full wing heavy movement.
Well, it for me on defense for them, it's like the way that it's like the scheme is so over aggressive while also not having that backline protector, right? Yep. Like that's kind of what it's always come down to for me. And now they have that. Like Jakob is big. He's a physical presence inside there. He's a good rim protector with verticality. He should help them. Like I know that the numbers in San Antonio were not very good defensively for Jakob. I'm not real worried about that. Like I think so much of that is just those guards are not very good at fighting through screens and kind of hang them out to dry way too often. And the structural integrity of that defense, especially like, I don't even think Devin Vassell has had like the best year defensively for his standards while he's taken this increased role offensively. And obviously he's missed time as well over the course of the last month, it feels like he's been out.
Yeah.
So, I'm not worried about Jakob defensively. I think you put him around veteran players, I think he'll be fine. I think that his presence will substantially help the defense if they decide to continue down this road of playing this like wildly aggressive, hyper energetic, like disruptive, turnover forcing, havoc inducing team, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think my bigger question is like, I like this deal in a vacuum. I really don't think that they gave up that much. The second round picks, like, we can talk about second round picks again, just in general, but like, I'm not worried, whatever. I think this team is like, at worst, going to be hovering around the middle. So, like, I can't be bothered about the 45th overall pick. Sorry, not to be crass or dismissive. Their own first, in 2024, I think, again, like, this is partially a bet on we want to be better next year.
Yeah.
We really believe in ourselves to be better next year. Now, it actually has to happen, and they have to do the things in the summer to make it happen. But I do think this makes it more feasible and more appealing for me, especially too because it seems, at least it was reported today, that it seems likely, like, they feel good about Jakob re-signing there, which means that they're willing to pay what will ultimately probably be a decent amount for him, but I think it's deservingly. So again, I'm just interested to see how it plays out.
So I'm glad that you brought up earlier, though, the idea of what does this offense look like now? I mean, their offense got somehow magically even more cluttered and messy in this deal, because for as much as we like Jakob, Scotty Barnes, like, essentially playing as like the screener and roller and doing everything like that. That's a better offensive player. That's a more threatening offensive player than Jakob Poeltl at the very least. So, like, I can't imagine they're going to bench Scotty, right? Like, they're still going to start him. They'll probably bring maybe Gary Trent or, someone else off the bench, whoever, you want to play at the 2. And then you play like Van Vliet, Barnes, OG, Jakob Poeltl, and Siakam, right? I mean, that's just so much. It's such a lack of space on the interior for Barnes and Siakam to drive into. And for Fred VanVleet to be like a perimeter player, it's going to continue to make OG essentially a 3-and-D guy that doesn't really have a lot of chances to attack in the way that it feels like he wants to attack.
Well, I do think one thing I would want to add on top of that, because I think that there's potential for that to be a problem. But I think what I feel better about is that he just does things really quickly. Like, there's not even Scotty, I think sometimes, like, Scotty can make quick decisions, but I think he does have a tendency, especially when he hasn't been the screener, like, he can kind of be somebody who does want to survey a little bit more. With Jakob, like, again, it's he's going to make decisions. He's going to make them quickly. And I think even if it's not necessarily spacing, like, it is part of spacing, the decision-making and being quick and doing things aspect. So again, it's not the same spacing as somebody who's a 40% 3-point shooter off movement. But I do think that it has something. And I probably not that he's threatening per se, but I do probably have a little bit more belief in what he is as just, again, being able to be somebody who can touch the ball and make it go to the right places while opening things up for others, that I feel a little bit better about it than you do offensively. Again, it's just going to the Scotty and Jakob thing is what I'm going to want to see. Like, how does this look in closing lineups? How does it look in starting lineups? Because they did not trade for him I would not envision him coming off the bench.
No, they did not give up a 2024 first round pick for Jakob Poeltl to not try and re-sign him at the very least.
Exactly.
Having said that, I think where this is going is I think that they're gearing up for a star trade. I think that's my take on Toronto here. I think that they want to make a move. I think they want to position themselves to be able to get into every offer moving forward for a star. Guys, keeping OG Anunoby, for instance, I think is a really good start in that regard. We just saw Mikal Bridges be the main player along with picks in a deal for Kevin Durant. I would imagine that we see something along the lines of them trying to make a move for a star. Because that's where this roster still does not make sense. We'll see what happens with Fred VanVleet. We'll see what happens with Gary Trent, but they need more shooting. And Masai Ujiri was quoted in the press conference following the trade deadline saying, I think we need to be one of those top tier 3-point shooting teams to win in today's NBA. I think we'll get there through additions or internal growth. I mean, I don't know how you feel about the internal growth part of that, Mark, but I don't feel great about it. I mean, OG's good, but like you just spent a little bit of time canvassing the league to see if he was available and was like able to be moved. I don't know, man. I mean, this feels tough.
They're in a precarious spot. So I think they remain the team that I have probably the most questions about coming out of today. That made moves, I should say. There are teams that didn't make moves that I was like, well, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
But yeah,